Hi everyone, talking Apple again with Adrian Kingsley Hughes here for ZDNet. Specifically, Adrian, lots of rumors, of course, has been for quite a while now regarding the iPad Pro. What can we expect? When can we expect it? You know, unfortunately, with the pandemic, we've been living through, things have changed, timelines are all over the board, and therefore rumors are always circulating.
Yeah, I mean, everybody seems to have been hotly anticipating the invites for a March event landing, and that hasn't happened. And now everybody's eagerly awaiting an April event.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's this thing called, Apple's a massive company. It's got massive amounts of resources, but things are changing at Apple. I think the pandemic's had a big effect on Apple, as with everybody and everything. On top of that, we're seeing Apple making this massive shift to Apple Silicon, the M1 processors being the first wave of that. But so I think things are going to be slightly different. And this iPad Pro, I've been seeing rumors it's going to be on par with Apple's M1 Silicon Max in terms of performance. And that's sort of exciting on some levels, because you can say, ooh, that sounds like an awful lot of power. But on another way, it's very easy to predict that Apple stuff gets faster, especially when you're looking at the iPads and the iPhones. We can basically see this geometric doubling every time that they're released. It's not really that much of a surprise. But it's this idea for me of kind of like, well, if iPad Pro is going to be significantly faster than what we've seen now, what does that really mean? And because when I look at desktop and laptop systems on one side and iPhones and iPads on the other, there's very different sort of workflows and power demands on them. And desktop and laptops generally have this legacy of being underpowered because of just the way that processing power was on those systems, especially Apple being tied to a company like Intel. So if you put an old Mac and a newer Mac side by side, everything felt faster, from the operating system to everything that you were running. There was this, wow, you could really feel this difference. When you're looking at things like iPhones and iPads, it's slightly different, because Apple has tight control over the ecosystem, especially the software ecosystem. And as apps come out in response to new hardware, you're seeing higher and higher demands from these new apps as they come out, or updated apps as they come out. But you don't generally see it in terms of when they're being released. So you can take quite an old iPhone and quite a new iPhone and put them side by side, and the stock apps feel pretty much the same in terms of performance. Maybe the camera's a little bit faster than the new ones, but pretty much it's very hard to tell the difference. I've played this game and it's very hard to tell the difference. You can be using new stuff and old stuff, and it's like very, very different. It's not very different. But when you're looking at apps move along at a massive rate now. You're getting updates every few weeks on the systems, and people want to use the latest thing, and developers are very keen on the iOS and iPad OS ecosystem to be using new features. So gradually the app demand on the system increases. And so this is what people feel when they feel that their iPhone feels old or their iPad feels old. They buy a new one, it feels, oh, this is kind of cool. And then they load more apps onto it, and the apps use more of that power that's available, and it starts to feel old after 6 months. That's why. But if Apple's going to make some kind of dramatic shift here in terms of the power on the iPad Pro and take it on par with M1, which would actually be quite a jump. Why? What's the reason? Would it be that much of a difference? And I don't think ultimately it would be initially. I think over time, we're looking at things that maybe AR and VR might become more commonplace on these things. This is what we're seeing already, and maybe Apple wants more processing power for that. I'd love to see virtualization on this platform, so I could run, I don't know, Windows on it. That would be kind of cool. And more power certainly opens that up now. But I think the other thing that I keep hearing about is a Thunderbolt port. The iPad Pro currently has a USB-C port on it. Mm-hmm. But updating that to Thunderbolt would give it a lot more capability. And I think equally that capability would demand a little bit more in terms of performance. And I think boosting the iPad Pro up would certainly be the place to do that. And also, I think the iPad Pro could accommodate a little bit more of a price bump, or certainly not having to drop the prices in the same way as we're seeing with the cheaper versions. So it's
Right.
probably going to happen. There's definitely one in the works.
Yeah.
Just when?
It's just when. And I think that brings us back full circle to what you said at the beginning, which I think is important to note here, Adrian, and how quickly we all lose sight of things, especially because we're so used to getting things new and pumped out constantly and new and updates and all of this stuff that, we have been in a pandemic, and every company, even Apple, has been impacted so greatly by that. So timelines, again, are, you can't just expect something as quick because of what we've, been living through.
No, and the whole ecosystem's changing as well with more work from home. I'm pretty sure the iPad Pro's seen a lot more sales, but equally Macs have seen more sales, especially in the notebook department. So again, there's more demand to make more stuff in there. And so when things are selling really well, there's less of a demand to be able to need to update them because they're selling quite well. On top of that, Apple's committed to changing its whole Mac ecosystem and switch it over to Apple Silicon over 2 years or so. And again, that's another factor in here that is all at play. So there's a lot of changes here. And I know people get very disappointed when they expect that there's going to be a release and they're waiting for the invite to come in and it doesn't come in. But it is as it is. Yeah, it'll land when it'll land, and it'll be the best thing ever.
Yeah, a little patience between now and then would be good.
Absolutely.
All right, Adrian, thanks so much for that. Of course, for much more, make sure you check out ZDNet. We appreciate you watching today.